Hello everyone, welcome to another session on Zeitgeist. This time we are moving on to the fourth module. We are done with my part of the first module, the second, the third. Third was on gender, where we have discussed about Lee Mokobe's transgender issues. And in this module, I'll be handling two chapters. One is by a poem by W.H. Auden titled Refugee Blues, which I'm going to handle in this session. And the next is Yuval Noah Harari's a prose essay, so that will deal after this particular session. So the entire module, the fourth module, is on human rights. Before we get into the poem, I would like to mention a few words about the poet. That's the normal custom that I follow. No matter, like, this is like a general English classroom. We all know that you will get some questions from the introduction part. Okay, so the first thing that you have to keep in your mind is that W.H. Auden is a British English poet. The poem got published in the year 1939. I hope you all are well aware about the significance of the year 1939. And maybe because of the year of publication, or otherwise also you can see W.H. Auden is popular for his political commentaries through poem. And this poem, which was published in the year 1939, it actually deals with the plight of the Jewish refugees. Now we'll start from the very beginning. Like, we'll try to understand the title of this particular poem, and the title of the poem is Refugee Blues. So what do you mean by a refugee? A refugee is a person who has been forced to leave his or her country. Okay, forced to leave his or her country in order to escape what? War, or you can say persecution, or a natural disaster. And blues means it's a feeling of, you can say, melancholy, or you can say sadness, or depression. Okay, so in short, you can say through the title, what actually we can guess from the title is that it is the sadness of the refugees that is in fact getting reflected through the poem. And here you can say he is talking about, W.H. Auden is talking about the Jewish refugees. So their exile, their loneliness, and their isolation, that is getting reflected in the poem. So in short, you can say the poem depicts the trauma and the pain of being forced to leave home. And also you can say the poet in fact is talking about how much desperate these refugees are when they are unable to find a place with safety and, you can, security, when they are surrounded with violence, and living in an totally uncertain kind of a world. As it is mentioned in your textbook, I'm on page number 69. And there you can see that he was influenced by the poetry of T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot, another name that you can keep in your mind for your general awareness, you can say. He's and basically he was from America. Later he got settled in UK, or you can say England, and he is popular for his poem The Wasteland, which came in the year 1922, and that, you can say, marked the beginning of modernism in English literature. W.H. Auden is influenced by T.S. Eliot. There is a popular term in the history of British English literature actually referred to as Auden generation. Or you can say it is also called as the poets of the 1930s, poets of the 30s, poets of the 1930s, or literature of the 30s. In all these ways, this particular category of people are generally addressed. And his group includes three other people. One is Stephen Spender, then we have Louis Magnus, and the third person is Cecil Day Lewis. The general trend that we can actually see in the poets, or you can say in the poems of Auden generation, is that their poems, we can sense a desire for political and ethical commitment. Poems are in fact an expression of that. Another point that you can keep in your mind with regard to W.H. Auden is that he was influenced by Marxist ideals, so that he was involved in the Spanish Civil War of 1937. despite all this, we can see that his political commitment outside the world of poetry is often challenged by critics. According to a critic, it is there in your textbook, Edward Mendelssohn, he was most often divided when he appeared most committed. Okay, so whenever he appeared like committed to the very core, you can see a divided self in him. And abandoning politics, he left England and moved to US in 1939, in the very year he published this particular. There in America, he won 2 awards. One is Pulitzer Prize for Literature, and the other one is National Book Award. Pulitzer Prize, as mentioned in your book, he won that in 1947 for his work The Age of Anxiety, and National Book Award for The Shield of Achilles in 1955. Okay, so he led a bohemian life. Bohemian means socially unconventional, or you can say like an unconventional lifestyle with his gay friends in America. And later he moved back to England in 1956, and there in England he was elected professor of poetry at Oxford. Another important work of W.H. Auden is In Memory of W.B. Yeats. Before I move into the poem, the line-by-line explanation of the poem, if I summarize, the poem laments on, as we read in page number 69, laments on the sad plights of Jews who were threatened to leave the country before the Holocaust, that massive destruction. To modern democracies, and the indifference and antagonism. And antagonism means it's a type of enmity, you can say. Indifference, there is no sympathy. There is a lack of sympathy that they have faced, even though they have moved on to modern societies or modern democratic societies, and while they seek asylum there. It is one of the significant, it's considered as one of the significant responses in the context of violation of human. Then some more points, from your textbook on page number 70. The poem has got 12 stanzas in 3 lines. Then the rhyme scheme is A, A, B. Then the speaker of the poem is a Jewish refugee, and the relevance of the poem, there is a special importance in the present global context in which migration has emerged as a burning problem, with thousands dying at sea, and shown the door of exit from many countries. So we are talking much about refugees these days. So it's like the poem has got its own significance, or you can say its own relevance even in the present global context. Though there is no set meter in the poem, you can say that it is close to the meter in fact used by the American blacks in their protest poems. There is a repetition in the last line of every stanza, and you can say in the third line, and there is an insertion of my dear, and both it is in fact making the poem very touching, emotional and powerful. That is what is given in your textbook. So in the next video, we'll discuss the poem line by line, and after that we'll go for another video to discuss the theme and symbols in the poem.